So this is the video that all of you have been waiting for. However, I have some bad news. So these are not all bad news, and in the end I think you're going to love this video. It's going to be slightly different. Now first let me talk you through what's happening with Refiner here. So pretty much everything is ready, and it was supposed to be launched today as I'm filming this. That's why I said in my previous videos, and that wasn't a clickbait or anything like that. I do apologize if it does sound like that. It was meant to publish today, official launch and everything, so you could place your order. However, a company that sells, or actually it's making custom-made my boxes for the shipment of these tools and the future tools as well, misplaced my invoice, let's say, and I already paid for the boxes and everything, and they were supposed to be made yesterday, and I got an email and they're not ready, and they have other things on the machine for now, so it will take another 2-3 weeks until I get the quantity that I need or expect that I need. And there are a few other things that I did not expect before launching, so I do apologize for that, but as there is a saying that all good things in life are worth waiting, so I think these must be very worth waiting for. A little joke on that. Now there are a few other things that I want to discuss as well about Refiner and how in general I'm going to sell these tools. And now in one of my previous videos on update on Refiner, I did mention about different approach, and now due to some laws here in Croatia, in order to stock up on any kind of items, you'd have to have a storage and employ somebody. Now in that previous video, some of you gave actually quite solid advice, is to employ my wife. Now for us at this moment, doesn't pay off at all as a small business. As my wife is already employed and she's using the benefits for our younger son, which he was born prematurely, and as you know, with all of that comes complications as well, which luckily most of them are behind us, but we still have a long way ahead of us. But that's all on that side, and again doesn't pay off or doesn't work for us at this point. Maybe in the future, but for now at least doesn't work. Now luckily there is another way which I've always done this kind of way, and that is custom made by order. So what that means is that in particular case for these tools that I'm going to sell, my signature tools, I'm going to assemble them, I'm going to polish them, the metal, the handles, I'm going to shape the tools, and I'll explain what I mean by that, and other burr or grinds and stuff like that I'm going to explain in just a few seconds. So pretty much I'll do all the refinement work and everything, put everything together, pack it and ship it to you, of course. So these will be really custom made tools, which I don't think anybody else offers something similar. It's a different way, it's a little bit a longer way, so you'll have to allow for more days for me to make the tools and everything, especially if there is a larger amount of orders in line, so it takes more time, but I think it's more personal way. Every tool goes through my hands, and the biggest thing is you'll receive a tool just the way I use it. So the biggest thing that I think that most of the beginners miss is how sharp actually is the tool, or how sharp does it need to be. And they usually, all beginners usually start, and they don't have the mindset of how sharp the tool has to be or what is sharp. So in my mind, my scrapers, my gouges in a very short future, which is a little spoiler alert, let's say, all these tools, if you choose like that, you'll receive them as just the way I use them. So I'll sharpen them, each and every one. Gouges will be with asymmetric grind, so you can see how that works for you. And with each tool or each grind, I'll post a tutorial video just like this one. So that's the biggest news. Now I know that this option won't be for everybody. I know it's much easier to just go online onto some store and pick a tool and buy it, and it will be shipped to you immediately, and that's pretty much the easiest way. Again, I explained why I can't do this, because I can't have a stock of tools or balls or anything. That goes for the turnings as well, so I make everything custom made. That's why I always done it. For the tools, like I said, these will be custom made, so I'll assemble those, I'll clean up the blades, I'll polish them up, shape them just perfection to perfection, just the way I use them, put a notch on, grind the profile as well, the bevel, and you'll get three options for the refiner here. So the first one is factory edge, so you'll get what I would consider if you buy my refiner from a store, let's say. So it won't have any burr on, it will have the notch, it will have the bevel, it will have the shape, but it won't have the burr on. The second option is I'm going to sharpen the scraper with the grinder burr. So that's the second option, so it will be ready to be used straight out of the package. So that's another thing, that's the scraper, or the first step in using the scrapers that I always go. So first is grinder burr, pulled burr is the second one, then I hone the edge, and I'll get to that in more in depth in just a few seconds. The last option is, or the third option is pulled burr with the burnisher, which again I'll explain and show you in just a few minutes. So that final option is really, I would say, the ultimate scraper setup. You'll get a really nice, and I'll try to explain in a tutorial in just a few seconds why that burr is superior, longer lasting, and so on. And but it's again maybe slightly more difficult to control, because if you pull the burr a little bit too hard or too big, it can get unstable scraper or a little bit more grabby scraper. But in video I'm going to explain how to avoid that. So again, I want to apologize one more time for all of these delays. Some of these are really out of my hands. So like with the move of the shop, or moving my family, or with these boxes, there's nothing that I can do here, and it's life. So like I said, pretty much all the stuff that it's worth waiting in life are worth waiting. So hopefully this will only take a few weeks longer, so probably won't take longer, but let's keep it to that. And again, I apologize for this, but it's life. So but as soon as the tools will be ready, and again I expect this in 2-3 weeks, once the tools are ready, you'll receive a notification or a post on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. I'll post a short video explaining that tools are now open or ready to be ordered, so you can go to my website and place an order. By the way, the link to my website is in the video description, so if you want to check it out before, you can go and do so. So again, thank you all for your emails and everything of support. It means a ton to me. So, and please allow, once the money is on the account, allow at least 3 to 5 days for me to finish up the tool, get it packed, sharpened, shaped, and everything, get ready to ship out. So it will be a process, especially in the beginning, once I get moving and get everything sort of in an organized fashion, but I think you understand what I mean here, and just allow for a little bit more time. I know some of you will wonder about the payment maybe as well. For now, at least for the small business like I am here, at least in Croatia, it really pays off to have the simplest way and the oldest way of paying, and that is direct bank transfer. So you can do it once you place your order, or put in the cart whichever stuff you want. When you place your order, when you click on order, you'll get email back with all the details for payment. That's the easiest way for us to start now. Now later I'll probably introduce PayPal, some credit cards, but for now, for the beginning, for probably at least a year it will be this kind of payment method, which again, it's the easiest one, I think, doing it over the app or going into a bank. So it's the easiest possible way. So enough talking. This is a tutorial how to get the best out of your refiner once you receive it, and what are the options and so on. So I'll explain everything now. So this is the refiner, and there is one key difference from this final prototype and the tool that you're going to receive, and that is the signature will be transferred here alongside with the refiner name here. So these will be in the lower part here. The other thing is, this is the tool that you're going to receive if you choose the factory edge. So you will have both of the bottom corners nicely rounded over. The top here will be flattened to a certain degree that I use it, at least. The bottom as well here will slightly get a little bit more polish like this. Again, I do not bother with removing all of the tool marks that you see here on the tools, because these does not affect anything on tool performance, as you'll see in just a few seconds. As well, that you're going to receive as a factory edge, and that is a 45-degree bevel here, as well as the shape here that I'm after and why I like this kind of a profile, as well as the notch here. So, and for the notch as well, I know there are a few questions always. I'm going to explain why it's here and how it's used, and how to actually put it after you use some of the scraper here length. So that's the tool itself that you're going to receive as a factory edge. Now with the grinder burr, the second option, you're going to get the tool that it's ready to be used straight out of the package with the grinder burr. That's my first step whenever I'm using wherever I'm refreshing a new edge on the scraper here. So just turn on the grinder. Like I said, the second option is grinder burr. So what grinder burr is, once you flatten the top, so just to show you how I flatten that, so on a flat piece of surface like a tabletop, or you can use a platform here, just be careful of course not to bump into a wheel. So now that's flat enough, but the important thing is there is no remnants of the burr on top. So to put the grinder burr, all you have to do is just find the bevel, of course, and keep it nice and steady pressure on the tool, on the platform, and move along. Once you get to the top of the edge, and immediately if you get to the top of the edge, you're going to feel a burr. There is a few spots missing, so I need to go a little bit more. And that's it. So now I feel burr all the way to the edge here. The CBN wheel that I'm using here is 180 grit. That's fine enough. I wouldn't go any finer. I don't think there is a benefit of going any finer than that. Now if you have only like 320 or 600 CBN wheel, then use it by all means. Now the way I put a little notch here, because once you worn out the tool, of course you'll have to re-establish if you want this notch, and again I'll explain why it's there in just a few minutes. So I just place it like so. It doesn't really matter what angle this is, the notch itself. All I want to do that it's nice sharp corner this top, and that I have a little relief so I can undercut, let's say, a detail bead or something like that. So I just place it like so and slowly push it on the CBN. Just a 2-3 mil difference, and you can see, I hope, a really nice detail, and it's a really nice useful feature to have on a scraper like this, a refiner scraper like this. So this is the option number 2 if you choose it like so. So this is grinder burr. This is always the first step and the first burr that I use until it's worn out. The third option is pull burr, and I'll get to that one in a few minutes once we test out the grinder burr here. So now you know how to re-establish the grinder burr. It's really easy, and it's a burr that it's most user-friendly for somebody that just start out using standard scrapers. So now we are back at the lathe here, and this is a little piece of maple around 8-9 inches diameter, something like that. It's turned into a bowl shape roughly, and this is where refiner really shines. So again, this tool is inspired by my mentor's shear scraper, and it's slightly different to have some of these features that I like. And again, this is the burr straight from the grinder, and in one of my previous videos on scrapers, you remember saying me I always use the burr first from the grinder, and once that one burr is gone, I always pull the burr next. And usually I could pull the burr 2 times. After that, if I go 3rd time, 4th time, it's not effective as it was the first time. It actually can be quite worse. And after that, I would use a diamond hone and sharpen that way the burr a few times. Now I'll explain the difference, why the pulled burr is so cleaner, let's say. But first, just to say that the grinder burr is the most user-friendly burr. So if you're just starting out using standard scraper, and the burr from the grinder will be the easiest one to control. It won't be grabby, and of course you have to follow the principles of using a standard scraper, and that is, first, let me just grab a pencil real quick. So if I mark the center, which is the little white dot in the middle here, I want to have the nose of the scraper lower than your top of the handle or end of the handle. So you need to raise your handle so there is a negative 90 degree from surface that I'm scraping and top of the tool. So that goes here and on the side profile here. But also what I want to do is adjust the height of the tool rest, so I'm actually scraping on the center or slightly above that center. So I never want to be really low there. So always on the center once I raise the handle, or slightly above that. Speed also, a little bit more speed also helps with getting cleaner scrape, but it's not always the case, depends on the wood, depends on the conditions as well. So this is the pure side grain portion, so let's flatten this real quick. So like with any scraper, the key thing is not to use force. With standard scrapers there are now no room for force. So just let the wood come down to scraper, to the burr, and you can see nice shavings and everything, a little dust, and the surface is really nice and clean. And let's say I want to put a foot somewhere around here, and usually I would do that with a gouge, but this time I'm going to do it with a refiner. So I have the camera moved a little bit, so this angle here needs to be less than 90 degrees as well if I want to get into slightly tighter corners. So going straight in, that may blur the camera, so I'll just quickly adjust the focus, hopefully it won't bump the camera too much. And now I can shape, let's say, the side here, but I think you're going to see a little better if I move the camera to a different spot, to a different location. So I have a little foot, let's say, for the chuck. The words are just not coming out of my mouth today. And with a spindle gouge, I just put a little OG shape here. Like so, and going here to the side grain, end grain portion, this is where you really don't want to just jab the scraper in, so just have it lightly going over the surface. You really don't want to I have at least that sort of mentality in my head. I really don't want to touch the surface with the scraper, but I have to touch it really delicately to only engage the burr and don't push or force anything on. So as the Richard likes to say, you stroke the surface, you don't scrape the surface, so if that makes sense. So again, light pressure. You can see a lot of fine dust, but I also get shavings. So the way I'm thinking this, shavings will remove or will be representing the removing the bulk, and the fine dust that sticks on your scraper will tell you that you are scraping nice and cleanly. So that's using the scraper flat. You can see that's pretty nice surface. So this is maple. It's really bone dry maple. It's not maybe the best one to scrape, but it's not really the bad either. But we can improve on this already good surface, and that's why we have this rolled or rounded over profile edge here, and this one is rounded over as well. If you want to change one day this scraper to maybe a spear point, so you have this option here, or if you want to change this profile to this one, if you turn on the other side, so you have that option for you. So to further on improve this surface, I'm going to tilt the scraper now on the side, and really the best piece of advice that I can give you is to think now when you pull the scraper on the side is to think of this as a skew. So you really don't want to touch with wood the upper area here, which is unsupported because there is a really big gap underneath. So only I scrape with the bottom half of the edge, and I always go away from the foot using it flat, nice and gently. And now once that is done, I can shear scrape again nice and gently. I'm keeping the handle flat here in this orientation, and I'm placing the hand on my hand on the tool rest, and I'm squeezing my fingers, and that way I have a way bigger control than just dragging the tool. So these are micro adjustments, and the surface is really nice. Hope you can see that. Now just for the comparison, what I'll do real quick is put a little flat spot here. And I want to scrape that as well, so you can see that you can scrape the end grain, side grain portion here as well, and get a clean cut. Now this is where, let me just adjust the camera real quick. So this is where pulled burr may not be the best solution for somebody that just starts out, because it can be slightly more aggressive when you have the end grain, side grain portion. But the grinder burr that I have here, if you just go lightly, and again I'm really trying not to scrape the wood, if that makes sense, so it's really that light of a touch, so I'm barely going on the wood, and you can see a lot of these tiny hairs, and the surface should be quite nice. Hope you can see that. A little rougher area here, but just a little bit, but overall it's a really nice surface here. So now let's pretend that the burr here from the grinder is gone, so it's dull tool, we don't have any more use out of it. My next option is always to pull the burr with the burnisher. So that's the option number three that you can choose on my website for the refiner, and that's the what I would call ultimate burr that you can have on your scraper. It will give you probably the best surface that you can have on the piece of wood, but if you do it wrong, it can be really grabby scraper, and it will be much harder to control. So hopefully this video will sort that out as well, that little mishap that you can have if you just do it wrong. So This is, first of all, burnisher. It's a M42 rod, which is harder, much harder than M2 cryogenic that we have on the scraper. The reason I went for M2 cryogenic is, and there is a M42 scrapers as well. I think that M2, because it's slightly softer, you can get slightly sharper burr here. It's not the case on cutting tools, but on scraping tools, in my opinion, it's slightly better to have M2 instead of M42, but maybe in the future we'll add M42 options as well. So like I said, this is the burnisher you'll get if you want to order one. I'll make the handle, assemble everything, put a hard wax oil on, install and polish up the rod here. So the way I like to pull the burr is, and you see me do this many times, I always start out by removing the remnants of the old burr here on the top of the scraper. So place, this is 400 grit sandpaper, just use used one that you have, and that's, I don't go any finer than that, doesn't really need to be. 320 will work as well. So place this sandpaper on a flat surface, or rotate it, or flip it back over on the top, the scraper, and just give it a few rubs. Really, a second or two is good enough, and that will remove the remnants of the burr on top here. Okay, so once you have removed the remnants of the old burr, and you really don't want to feel any when you go like this, the next step is to push the metal past the bevel here, and for that it's actually quite a good idea if you lubricate these 2 points. So metal on metal, it's not always the best. So this is a old trick. You can spit if you want on your scraper. I don't advise you to, although I was taught that way, because this is not anything new. Pulling the burr with the burnisher, it's not new, it's really centuries old technique. And the old masters, this is the technique that I learned from pulling the burr on cart scraper, and old masters will just spit on the scraper. So it works. If you want to do that, of course do it. But I usually have a rag that I clean the bed ways with WD-40, and just I polish up, let's say, the rod a few times on that rag, which I'll do now. So it's just a few seconds. It really doesn't have to be this elaborate, and I'm talking here, so of course it's a longer process. Now, a little safety note, of course, watch your fingers. We have sharp point here and sharp point here, so you really don't want to slip your finger onto this point, so be careful. I usually hold my fingers here on the ferrule and on the wood, and you really want to be careful how you do this. The way I pull the burr first past or pull the metal, it's not burr yet, so pull the metal past the bevel, is I place the burnisher flat on the scraper like this. So flat, don't go like this, so flat, and I do a few quick rubs like so. So you can see how I pass on over the edge. So that's just a few rubs, and what that is doing is pulling the metal past the bevel, so you have a little, let's say, piece of metal that's sticking here. Now this is where it's different from the grinder burr. So grinder burr is a braided burr on the scraper, same with a honing guide, with a diamond hone. So it's a braided burr, which you have here. Once we flatten the top and remove the remnants of the grinder burr, and we pull the a little metal past the bevel here, now you have a continuous metal, which is really sharp if you lightly go with your fingers like so. Now, when we roll that little piece of metal, it will be actually sort of a hook like this. It won't be a braided metal on the, or a burr on here that does the work. It will be actually folded metal, piece of metal, and that's the big difference why it's working this good. But again, if you do it, or if you overdo it, you'll have a too big of a burr, and that will be way too aggressive to control. It will likes to fit itself into wood, so that's no good. So the way I do this, so like I said, I've shown you, you pull the metal past the bevel here. Now some will pull the burr just by holding it like this 90 degrees. I don't like that, so I find the bevel and raise it 1 degree, 1 or 2 degrees, and now I always pull up and like this up, so never down to the bevel, so always up to the top of the scraper. And usually what all it takes is I start 2 mil from the bottom, so find the bevel, raise it 1 degree, go here and pull the burr like so, and now I go 2-3 mil down here, and again I pull the burr all the way down to the bottom corner, and that's all you need. And I can feel nice sharp burr on top, and it's really, maybe you won't even be able to feel it, but you'll see now how it works. So first let's go here on the side grain portion. I'll drop the rest ever so slightly. So again, I'm raising the handle and I'm at the center height. Really nice touch, and again, this is not something new. This has been done on a card scrapers for ages, and you can see that's a really nice surface. So that's easily sandable with 180 grit, even 240. So now let's go to this profile here. Now actually, I forgot to do is mention what this notch will do for you. So let's say that I want to do a quick decoration here. So I'm keeping the scraper flat, but I'll use only this corner here to put a little decoration here, and this little cutout will allow me for this corner that I can then shear scrape right into that corner. So let's just pretty this up a little bit, and again, if I tilt it up on the side, now I'm shear scraping, and that cutaway will allow me to shear scrape right back into this little corner here. So, and that's really nice, and I can touch up this area here just a little bit. There we go. And just to show you, that's again a really nice clean surface. So if you have a bead here, you can do it as well, like so. And I'll just remove some of the wood here. So we have an exposed bead, and just I'm going to put it up again from this side. There we go. A little. There we go. Now it's nice and clean. So you can see that's shear scraped all the way to a corner, and really nice detail here, really unusual. That's something that I really like to do on the bottom of anything, to do something a little bit different. So this is really nice and simple detail, and you saw it was really a matter of seconds. So now let's pretty up the OG profile here. Let's pretty up this OG profile here. So again, this is where you really want to have a light touch. And so again, this is really nice. I can feel it's really smooth. And I can bring the tool rest just a little bit closer. Okay, so that's using it flat, and I hope you can see that's really nice surface. There are a few tool marks which we can get rid of by shear scraping. So this area, like I said, with a grinder burr we can. And also to say about this pull burr is it removes wood really rapidly, so be careful. And so this is now nice and clean, and I'll just put it up on the edge as a shear scraper. And now it's way less aggressive. It has much less tendency to dig in, and also it will leave much cleaner surface. So the reason why this works so beautifully is because this is now pulled burr with a hook on the, instead of a braided surface. It will act like a really nice cutting action, let's say, and you can see that works, I mean, just beautifully. So just to show you from a little different angle that this surface is really nice and clean. So again, you really have to be careful how you use pulled burr. You really don't want to go overboard, and as well with this action. So if you pull this too much, you'll extend way more metal past the bevel. So just do it a few strokes, and whoops, sorry about this, and then go to bevel and rolling the burr. So if it gets dull, what you can do is again go flat and just do it like this a few times. Go back to the bevel, raise it up, 1, 2, and now I feel another burr, and now we can use it again. Again, you just have to be careful that you don't just stick this tool in. You really have to have control over it. So if you're just starting out using standard scrapers, I recommend that you stay on the grinder burr. But you can see that's beautiful surface. Let's go here to the end grain, side grain portion. Again, light pressure. I'm barely touching the wood. And especially here on the side grain, end grain portion here, you really don't want to introduce a lot of the edge to the wood. So that's using it flat, and that's really nice. Again, surface. Yeah, you can start that sanding with 180 grit, and you can shear scrape it if you want. Now again, where this little notch comes in handy is, let's say I want to put a detail here, something like this. So just refine it all now a little bit. I would usually do this with a spindle gouge or rough it with a spindle gouge, but so that's nice and clean. I can clean up this little shoulder here. And that's nice little detail done, nice and clean. So you can see now why this little notch is benefit here. So this little cutaway as well. So if this was a bead as well, it will do the same function. So let's roll a bead real quick, like so. So if I need to shear scrape under the bead, Again, just clean up this. So you can see that's a really nice surface here. So again, if you have the pulled burr, just be aware how you present the tool to the wood, and also be aware how much pressure you use. Just to show you that refiner, although it's called a refiner, it can remove a lot of wood at once, and if you know the proper technique, and you can see I'm using only, let's say, a third of the edge. So again, this is not anything new. This is, again, this surface is really nice and clean. This isn't anything new. This is old technique when we used card scrapers, so you'll get a nice burr on, or a nice rolled hook. But again, card scraper is removing a little wood, and here you have a big edge, so you really have to be careful. Now, although I was quite aggressive, hope you can see that's pretty good surface, which I would refine by shear scraping. And the big difference here with the shear scraping is, just move the camera closer. So I go to side grain here. So if I use the scraper flat, you can see how it rolls the wood. Now, if I tilt it up on its side, you'll see that the wood is sliced. See how the wood is rolled, the shaving is rolled. That's a major difference in how the surface is left behind, or what kind of surface is left behind. So once your pulled burr is over, you can always use a diamond hone. This isn't an option in my store because most of you have a diamond hone like this, and again, I always do this at the final stage before I go to a grinder. So the way I hone the scrapers is, again, I remove the remnants of the old burr. You really want to do that. That's, at least for me, unless I'm honing all the time. So that's gone, and I find the bevel again. I never hone like this. I always find the bevel and just raise 1 or 2 degrees. So that's what I'm going to do here. Find the bevel, raise 1 or 2 degrees. This diamond hone is, I believe, 1200 in terms of grit. You can use a coarser one if you want. So that's another burr on. This time it's it's a sort of a braided burr, which again will work quite nicely. And it's way less aggressive as well, so that's something to consider if you're just starting out. And again, the surface is ready to be sand. So I hope this little video will show you how to get the most out of your scraper. I usually go to all these raising the burr types on all of my scrapers. So I always go to a grinder first, or if I need to reshape the edge as well. Once the burr from the grinder is gone, then I pull the burr, and I usually do this 2 times. And after that I will hone the edge of the scraper a few times, then go back to the grinder, then back, pulling the burr, then back, honing, and so on. So that's my cycle, how I sharpen and getting the burr on my scraper. So this refiner here, again, you don't have to buy my signature tool. You can convert some if you want, some older ones or something similar. This again will show you, I hope, once you get the tool out of the package, if you choose grinder burr or pulled burr, how I'm using tools, how these tools really act when they are properly sharpened and raise the burr. And all of the scrapers that I'll be sending out, I'll also test out. So I'll have a little block of wood and I'll test out just for a few seconds if everything is okay, just the way I want, and then it can go out to the customer. Again, a little disclaimer, I'll put that on the website as well once the tool is ready for sale. If you choose the pulled burr, then you really have to be careful, and if you put too much pressure on the tool, it can be grabby. If you're raising the burr, or sorry, pulling the burr with the burnisher, again, you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to big hook on it. Again, it will be really aggressive, especially when that end grain on the ball comes down on that tool. And God forbid if you drop the handle and now you point the sharp edge into the end grain, that will cause a major catch. So always, if the handle is flat like this, you use it on the tool rest raised higher than the cutting edge here. So always the surface you are scraping, that's coming down to the edge, and top of your scraper needs to be less than 90 degrees. That's the simplest way to explain that I learned from my mentor, and it's a really nice, I think, nice way of putting it. So, and there are other options as well. You can always convert a refiner and put a secondary bevel on top if you like using negative rake scrapers. For me, my opinion at least, they don't provide anything more to the wood, getting a better surface or anything like that. They're actually a little less durable in terms of the burr, how much it lasts. The only thing that goes for the negative rake scrapers, in my opinion, is that these are much less prone to grabbing or catch. Because of that secondary bevel on top, you have now much more room. In case you drop the handle, you still won't get catch, because that negative angle on top is still less than 90 degrees on the surface you're scraping. And when you have, other thing is, when you have two bevels like here, then the edge doesn't want to pull itself into the wood. It's a little bit different mechanics versus single bevel that you have here. But with proper use, with proper technique, and again, if you're just starting out using scrapers, I highly recommend just using the platform and the grinder, or using a diamond hone to raise a nice burr on, and you'll get lovely results if you just follow these simple rules. If you already have some experience in using the scraper, a little bit more experience, let's say, then the pull burr is something for you to maybe try out, to test out for yourself. And I think, again, if you think about the difference between the braided burr, which is more like a saw teeth on the microscopic level, versus when you have the continuous edge of your tool, of your scraper, pulled just as a piece of metal over, and that actually scrapes the wood, and that's the major difference in terms of the quality of the cut. And again, it's not something new, it's been done for ages, only in woodworking more, let's say, than in wood turning, although it has been done in wood turning as well. I'm not new in this by any means, I'm not taking credit for this, but I do like that. And once I've tried that, and it was sort of a DAW moment, you know, where I transfer the the skill of raising the burr with the burnisher on the card scraper onto the scraper here, and it was a major improvement. So again, thank you all for your understanding, and I do apologize for another delay on the launching of the scraper, but hopefully this will be the last the last delay, and it should be ready in a couple of weeks, I hope, maybe 3 weeks tops. And once again, I'll post a short video just announcing that the store is open and you can go ahead and order your scraper, which again will be custom made by me. Whatever option you choose, I'll always assemble tools, polish them up, shape them, sharpen them to the way I'm using them. Just depends on which option you choose. Maybe a little spoiler alert again. Maybe next tool will be ball gouge or spindle gouge with asymmetric grind, something that it's really not available, let's say, and you'll have the opportunity to use the ball gouge just the way I use it, and just close enough as Richard used it. So I have a little maybe different method of getting there, but these are really closely matched, and all I could say is really thank you all for all of your support and everything. None of this would be possible without you. And a big thanks goes to my family, of course, and a big thanks goes to Richard Graffin, my mentor, that his simple guidance over the years turned me into turner that I am today. So I owe him in terms of wood turning a lot, and yeah, thank you all, thank you very much. And there is something big coming in next few days. And all I would say is that it will probably occupy both of these lathe space here. It's a massive thing. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say for now. So again, I don't want to reveal too much because life has other plans, so I don't want to spoil anything for myself, at least. But yeah, thank you for watching, thank you for everything, and see you in the next video.